want to start this video by making this point very clear. Shadow the Hedgehog the game is by no means a perfect experience. It definitely has its flaws, and it could have executed some of its ideas better. However, I also believe this game received more criticism than it truly deserved. Although some may tell you differently, this was the first time a mainline Sonic game did not star Sonic as the main character. This game was made at a time where Sega still stuck to this elusive idea known as continuity when it came to their storytelling, a concept that in the modern day has been long since forgotten. The previous main game, Sonic Heroes, had left players wondering whether the Shadow we know now is the same as the one who appeared in Adventure 2, with a few hints to suggest he was perhaps a fake. Sega decided to follow up on this question by dedicating an entire game to solving it. A perfect way to continue the storyline whilst being able to lower the stakes a bit without including a world-ending monster like the past few games. What's that? The game has aliens? Oh. Before I elaborate on the whole alien thing, let's go over the gaming landscape around the time of this game's release. Realism in shooters were really gaining momentum in the 2000s, with titans such as Halo 2 and Call of Duty 4 establishing a powerful grip on the industry. Many companies would try and tap into that large market this era had created, and Sega would be no different. It is said that Sonic fans had actually requested for Sega to add guns into a Sonic game, and with shooters selling very well, it must have seemed like a great idea. But they couldn't have had the family-friendly Sonic Head a game with guns and violence. Fortunately for them, Shadow was the perfect stand-in they needed. He has behaved as a villain in the past, so fans may be more willing to accept and take part in violent acts. He has amnesia, so it could be quite easy to justify any acts he may take, and this means they could really focus on resolving his identity crisis plot thread with its own dedicated game. But what about the aliens, I hear you ask? Well, Sega could have simply left it at that. Shadow wants to find out the truth of his past, has to take the fight to Eggman, who now has an army of Shadow androids, and Shadow uses some guns to get the job done. But back then, Sega was ambitious. They saw an opportunity to elaborate a bit more on Shadow's creation. He is the ultimate life form because he was made with the DNA of some advanced life form and enhanced by science. They also gave context as to why on earth Gerald Robotnik even made the Eclipse cannon, to fight off an alien invasion. Then to top off the ambitious plot and gun-based gameplay, they decide to try and provide a build-your-own story where your choices influence not only the levels you play, but who Shadow becomes at the end of the game. Hero or villain?
This is who I am!
A large amount of criticism has originated from the darker tone and random inclusion of aliens into the series, which of many can be grouped into Sonic characters shouldn't use guns, children can't handle this, or aliens in Sonic just don't make sense. Sega obviously didn't think this whole series was meant to be gun focused when they added firearms into the gameplay. Throughout the entire game, the only main characters to see firing a weapon were Shadow himself and Omega. People like to forget that Sonic games have had guns in them before. In Sonic Adventure 1, at the start of the game, police officers fire upon Chaos, and we see the bullets drop into the floor. This really makes a statement to the player about the threat Chaos posed to the regular person in his weakest form. In Sonic Heroes, Omega had literal chain guns for both of his arms, and yet Sonic Heroes is one of the most accessible Sonic games out there. This links into the point about children not being able to cope with guns. The truth of it is, most kids these days know full well what guns are and what they can do. The way the guns are included are what matters, not if they are included. Some would say, Shadow kills humans with guns, but in actuality Shadow cannot kill humans directly in gameplay. Instead he wounds them but keeps them alive, apart from a few pilots, but this also happened in Sonic Adventure 2. You can even use a heal gun to revive humans, which I remember as a kid when I tried to do a healer run throughout the game. I remember when the game first came out, me and my friends on the playground all loved it. The guns did not put us off the game at all. It might come across as a shock to some, but most kids can tell the difference between real life and a game where a small hedgehog swings a Gatling gun around as if it were nothing while shooting aliens in the face. Kids currently play games like Fortnite, which visually is similar to Shadow the Hedgehog, just that it uses lighter colours, and kids back then were playing Call of Duty, which in terms of violence was far more intense. As for the argument about aliens not fitting in with the Sonic setting, people just say, "Oh, aliens," as if that's a powerful point on its own. So they're telling me they can stomach glowing rocks of unlimited power, flying mutant foxes, a hedgehog that has sassy remarks, is blue, can break the sound barrier, and can talk, or a water god of destruction are all fair game. But aliens? Now that's going too far. What about the Wisps? Ignoring how they're overused now, in their debut appearance, people seem to like the idea of the Wisps, who were aliens, what these same people said don't belong in Sonic. Oh, I get it. If aliens are cute and cuddly, then they're okay, but if they're ugly, then they aren't. I see how it is. So if it's not apparent, I think the whole "whoa, aliens" thing is quite ridiculous. I can understand why aliens suddenly being involved in Shadow's creation might not be welcomed. It was an ambitious take and it won't pay off for some, but their existence in general is nothing out of the scope of Sonic's reality. Let's move on to the gameplay now. This game is clearly based off the Sonic Heroes engine, and thus inherits its flaws. For a start, making turns at speed is very slippery, and you'll often find yourself jumping to avoid drifting off the stage. Shadow has the ability to perform a short melee combo and aerial kick, but both of these have abysmal range and you are just as likely to lead to Shadow getting hit. Shadow can perform a spin dash, but you must be standing still, it takes too long to charge and it doesn't go far. He has a slide kick which is more useful than the spin dash, but still bad. The homing attack is still a mostly reliable option, as well as simply jumping into enemies. If Shadow homing attacks a wall, he can run across it for a bit. Grinding also returns and has a functional rail swapping command mapped to its own button. Rings are not lost all in one hit, making them more like a health meter. Shadow can also drive vehicles. I always thought it was kind of a fun thing to do, but many have said it's ultimately pointless for Shadow to use them. Maybe he likes to drive. Maybe he gets tired. Their inclusion does not affect the game, so I do not mind them. So with all that said, the gameplay seems like a watered down version of Sonic Heroes. Well, that's where the guns come in. Guns replace Shadow's melee attacks. They have auto lock on for most weapons, and it's quite accurate. The exceptions are the melee weapons and explosives, which are manually aimed. Shooting in the air makes use of Shadow's ability to hover with his shoes, which is a cool ability that Sega rarely utilises. The weapons all function quite well, and there is a large variety of them to choose from, meaning players can experiment to see which weapon they like the best. Enemies take more than one hit to defeat, but the weapons do a solid job at depleting them quickly. The largest aspect of unique gameplay mechanics, however, is the level progression system. In order to allow the player to choose Shadow's path, Sega decided to give all missions multiple win conditions, with each one taking you down a different path. Although the structure can differ from this, the usual options offered to the player are to reach the goal ring for neutral progression, or complete a specific task for hero dark progression. The tasks are clearly inspired by the Team Chaotix's quests in Sonic Heroes. Most come down to defeating a certain number of enemies or collecting items. Some levels have their own uniquely themed missions. In regards to collection and destroy missions, they were handled quite poorly. Sometimes there are excess targets than what you need to complete the level, which is great, but all too often you're required to find every single target on the level. Aside from just being tedious, you have no way of tracking the remaining target locations, so the only way to find that one missing target is to replay the entire stage. To aid this, the developers allow Shadow to warp from one checkpoint to any other that has been activated, but this is still a chore and has made many stages notoriously challenging. The two Arc Interior missions come to mind. As for unique missions, these can vary, but overall are quite fun and engaging. One of the best I can think of is when you need to race Sonic to reach a Chaos Emerald in a recreation of Final Chase from Sonic Adventure 2. Also tying into the theme of choosing Shadow's destiny, different enemies on a stage are classed as hero or dark. Technically, this classification is purely mechanical, as sometimes Eggman units are classed as hero. If Shadow destroys a hero unit, he gains Dark Meter. The opposite is also true. When maxed out, Shadow gains infinite ammo and the ability to either pull off Chaos Control or Chaos Blast. I love the inclusion of this mechanic, even though its implementation could be better, as sometimes you're attacking everyone just to fill it up. It should definitely be considered as a must-have for future playable Shadows, even if it is altered slightly. As a result of all of this, the gameplay of Shadow does deviate from what Sonic fans were used to at the time, but this new sandbox helps generate a feeling of importance behind Shadow's actions. You are actively deciding the fate of others, which in turn are ultimately little more than stepping stones into shaping Shadow's ultimate fate at the end of the playthrough. On the topic of Shadow's fate, the stories that this game tells can be rather interesting. Just because they are not all canon doesn't mean they are any less of a story. An advantage of having all these possible outcomes is that the game gets to explore aspects of Shadow that would only come about under specific circumstances. One of the things I personally appreciate about this game is branching the franchise back to the main storyline, since heroes play down the plot. Seeing the Ark, Central City, Prison Island, Artificial Chaos, and even the President again help the Sonic world feel so much more alive and connected, rather than being random events in random places every game. Shadow the Hedgehog's soundtrack is very underappreciated in my opinion. Some people write it off as being nothing more than droning guitars, but this is inaccurate. There is a wide variety of music on display. Some of the best would be Lava Shelter, Gun Fortress, Battle Menu, and Blue Falcon. Which is a remix of the Sonic Adventure 2 boss battle theme. The numerous ending themes as well are very good in their own right, but usually get overshadowed by Crush 40's fantastic contributions. The game has a multiplayer mode, but it's even more restricted than the Heroes version. You can pick between numerous forms of Shadow and try to eliminate each other in a best of 3, on small maps with limited resources. It does not have much depth, but compared to modern games, at least it has multiplayer. That just about wraps up what I had to say in defense of this game. A bit of a conspiracy theory I have is that it seems a lot of the hatred to this game comes from a group of fans who just think Sonic's world can't have humans, realistic guns, the occasional serious plot, deep characters and themes and such in its stories. But Sonic games have already done all those things, and many people who grew up with them enjoyed it, which is important to highlight, as a lot of the time these people package their opinion under "the children won't like it, it's not good for them." I am not trying to convince anyone that this is the perfect Sonic game, and it has many flaws, but I did not address most of them here since I'm trying to show a more positive take on the experience. With that said though, I would like to thank you for watching all the way to the end. This certainly is one of my more extensive videos. If you enjoyed, then please leave a like and comment to help others find the video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I can see you next time.